This is the Book Legion Podcast, where we review thought-provoking books to give our Legionnaires the knowledge they need to dominate the next level of their life.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me on the Book Legion. This is your host, Tyser Evans. Hey, this week I'm going to be covering the great book, The Coffee Bean by John Gordon and Damon West. So a little about the authors, if you're not familiar with them. John Gordon's a prolific author. He's written several books, mostly in the leadership space. The other one I've read of his is The Energy Bus. I've done a book review on the Energy Bus on this channel, so go make sure you check that out. After this one is done, if you're in a leadership position or you're looking to acquire more leadership skills, it's a phenomenal book I read about 7 or 8 years ago that really changed my perspective on leadership. And then Damon West teamed up with John Gordon. Damon West has a really incredible story in his own right. He was someone that was addicted to drugs, got arrested and was sentenced to prison for a pretty long stretch. And by the miracle, God got out early and changed the course and direction of his life through prison. And he actually heard this story through prison, The Coffee Bean, and teamed up with John Gordon to be able to deliver it in a great little short packed book. You can see here the book's only about 94 pages. Damon West, if you want to find out more with him, he did a great podcast with Ed Milet probably about 2 to 3 months ago about his story in prison and who he met, this guy, Mr. Jackson, which kind of told him how to deal with prison, and when this is the teacher he's referencing in the book. So let's jump into my 3 favorite takeaways from the book and talk about what the book's about. So let's jump into what the book's about. So the book takes place with a little boy. His name is Abe, and it kind of tracks him through his childhood into high school. And he has a very negative mindset, a very negative disposition about life. And so because of that, he's struggling in all aspects of his life. In high school, enough is just challenging as it is, right? Let alone to have a negative mindset. And so he comes across this teacher that he meets, and the teacher tells him a story. And the story is of the coffee bean. And it helps him to start to figure out how to rewire his mind and how to think differently. So let's just get into really the 3 main parts and components of the book. Well, let's first talk about his analogy is talking about negative mindset, right? So he gives an analogy of the coffee bean, the carrot, and an egg. And so if you were to boil a pot of water and you drop in a carrot, what happens? Well, when you put a carrot in the hot water, it becomes soft. And so he says that, if you continue with a negative disposition, you're going to be like the hard-boiled egg or the carrot. And people that turn into the carrot, they become soft on the inside, right? And they're the people that take everything as everything is happening to them, not for them, and have a very victimhood type mentality when it comes to their life. So it's very negative. Everything's always happening. Poor me. Everybody's out to get me. That type of disposition in life and that type of negative mindset. Now, when you look at the hard-boiled egg, what happens when you put an egg into hot water, right? You put an egg into water, it turns into a hard-boiled egg. So you have a very tough outside shell, right? And then the inside you have a soft egg. Well, what happens when you start to harden and get this tough exterior is that you start to really callous and be shut off from positivity. I'm sure we've all met people like this. Energetically, they're terrible to be around, that everything's just negative. They find the negative in everything. They're closed off to emotions. They don't reciprocate feelings. You just don't really want to be about them. And so he starts to explain to the boy that if you continue down a negative thought pattern, you're basically going to be the hard-boiled egg where you're completely shut off from the outside world. You don't have good interactions with people. You don't have any meaningful relationships because you're closed off. You have a hard exterior. Or you're going to be just emotionally crippled and being the carrot where everything offends you and everybody's out to get you. But if we look at what happens to the coffee bean's put into the exact same environment, which is the hot boiling water. And what happens when we put a coffee bean into water? It transforms its environment to become coffee, something that smells great, makes you feel good. Right here, I did not do this on purpose, by the way, either. I love coffee, death by decaf, right? So coffee is this analogy that no matter what's happening in your life, you choose the reality and the outcome of the situation, right? You assess the meaning. Situations are just situations. You assess whether the situation is good or bad. Every situation, even a perceived bad situation, there's something to learn from it. And so this is really talking about environment, the analogy of the book, that you're going to be in an environment, and within your environment, you can choose to transform your environment and be the light and be the positivity and be the leader. or you can choose to be the carrot or the hard-boiled egg. So this was a book that I read literally, I thought I was going to read on a flight, right? And got on the tarmac, plane was delayed about 20, 30 minutes, and I finished the book. That's how quick of a read it is. It only takes about a half hour to read the book. It's 94 pages, but there's a lot of different pictures within inside of the book. If you're looking at like a quick analogy to come back to think about for the rest of your life, think about buying the coffee bean. Then he does talk about after the boy learns this lesson from the teacher, the boy Abe, and he grows up to be a man, as he faces different challenges in his life, he always comes back to this analogy of the coffee bean. I have a choice of being the hard-boiled egg or the carrot, or I have the choice of being the coffee bean and transforming my environment with positivity, love, and being the light. And he chooses that route and has a lot of success in his life, versus if he was still had that negative mindset when he was struggling with school and sports and friendships and took that into adulthood, which many people do, his life would have not been full of blessings, right? Because you manifest your reality truly through the power of thoughts. So the better that you have a way to go back and help you with the tough times, such as a simple analogy of the coffee bean, of transforming your environment to project positivity to everybody around you. And that definitely helps to deflect the negative people, because they don't want to hang out with positive people that are uplifting. They want to hang out with like-minded people. So then you start to also attract your tribe. So I really enjoyed the book. Check out the other book by John Gordon. He's got lots of videos online, and said go find out that podcast with Ed Milet with Damon West. Really beautiful. And if you guys are interested in purchasing the coffee bean, I'll have a link for it down in the bio. The book's only about $10. It'd be a great Christmas gift as well, to be honest with you. If you know somebody in your life that maybe needs to be shook up a little bit, they're a little negative, that might be a great book. Said it's a very thin read, so it shouldn't intimidate anybody. It's not like a 400-page leadership book. So check it out. Links in the bio. If you guys haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button. The channel's been really growing. The podcast has really been going, so we really appreciate your support. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys next week.